Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Protect Your Farm Business with the University of Idaho Extension. I am Ashley Westerhold in the Department of Agricultural Economics and Rural Sociology. And so today we'll be talking about kind of what I talked about last week, which was that USDA announced the direct payments to agricultural producers. And as you can see, I have a slideshow prepared for today. We'll be talking about this direct payments to agricultural producers, which is the Coronavirus Food Assistance Program, or CFAP, which you will see the acronym for that. I should say that a lot of this information comes from the USDA's website in regards to CFAP, and that a lot of this actually was brought to my attention through Kansas State University's Ag Manager Information Center. And so they provided a PowerPoint slide and a webinar discussing this program. And so I just wanted to show you some kind of Idaho specific crop examples that might be useful, but they did provide this information first. So with that, I'm going to jump into the PowerPoint. If you have any questions throughout this presentation, please feel free to leave a comment. You might be catching this live right now. I'll be able to answer your comments once I see them come through. So with that, let's move forward and go through this presentation. And so there are two programs available to farmers and ranchers. I think we've all heard of the CARES Act, which they say that there's $19.5 billion available, and then the CCC Charter Act, which has $6.5 billion available, and together that is $16 billion available under these acts. And so the CARES Act is the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, and in regards to producers, it's to partially compensate producers for losses due to price declines that occurred between mid-January 2020 and mid-April 2020. And we'll get into those specifics today. And then the CCC is the Commodity Credit Corporation, and the Charter Act is to partially compensate producers for $6.5 billion for ongoing market disruptions, and will assist with the transition to a more orderly marketing system as the COVID-19 pandemic wanes. And so they will be making changes to these as time goes on, but right now this is what we know, and this is all provided if you go to farmers.gov/CFAP, which is in the description box. You'll find all of this information, but I wanted to give it to you guys as a straight format today. So timing of payments, only 80% of total calculated payments will be made at this time. A final payment will be issued at a later date determined by the Secretary to the extent that the funds are available. And sign-up starts today at your local FSA office and ends August 28th, 2020. So again, the sign-up starts today, Tuesday, May 26, 2020, and it'll end on August 28, 2020. So they break out the commodity programs into non-specialty crops, specialty crops, livestock, and dairy, and then they also have wool. So that's not on this slide, but they have wool as a separate commodity breakout. So what are they putting under non-specialty crops? Well, the non-specialty crops are malt barley, canola, corn, upland cotton, millet, oats, sorghum, soybeans, sunflowers, durum wheat, and hard red spring wheat. Producers will be paid based on inventory subject to price risk that has been held as of January 15, 2020. So a single payment will be made based on 50% of a producer's 2019 total production or the 2019 inventory as of January 15, 2020, whichever is smaller, multiplied by 50% and then multiplied by the commodity's applicable payment rates. So Producers must provide the following information to receive the payments: your total 2019 production for the commodity that suffered a 5% or greater price decline, and total 2019 production that was not sold as of January 15, 2020. So how much is still in the grain bin? How much do you still have on hand? And so they actually provide on that website that I shared, again, it's in the description box, payment tables for each of these different groupings. So non-specialty crop payment table, as you can see, it has all the crops that I listed, and then the CARES Act payment rate, and then the CCC payment rate, as you can see on this slide. And so if we looked at a malt barley example, you can see that there's the CARES Act payment rate and the CCC payment rate. And so say a producer had 25,000 bushels of wheat in the elevator on January 15, 2020. Well, if you multiply that by the CARES Act, and so again, that's 50% of that would be multiplied by that 34 cents, and then 50% of it would also be multiplied by the CCC payment rate, which would give you a total payment of $8,875 for that malt barley that is in the elevator as of January 15, 2020. And so again, you can add the payment rates together, as you can see in the bottom, and it's only paying on 50% of your inventory as of January 15th. So, what falls under specialty crops? Well, specialty crops are eligible for CFAP payments in the 3 different categories. So, these are crops that had suffered a 5% or greater price decline between mid-January and mid-April as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. They had produce shipped, but subsequently spoiled due to the loss of marketing channel, and had shipments that did not leave the farm or mature crops that remained unharvested due to COVID-19. And so what falls under there's payments for specialty crops. So payments will be available for eligible specialty crops for which a producer has production not subject to an agreed upon price through a forward contract agreement or similar binding document. Payment details for the eligible specialty crop are as follows. Payments for crops that had 5% or greater price decline in sales between January 15th and April 15th. Producers must retain records, and it shows on that farmers.gov/CFAP which records that you need to be eligible for these payments. So payments for crop shipments that left the farm by April 15, 2020 and spoiled due to no market, producers must obtain the documentation showing that. This applies to producers who have met contractual obligations in delivering the crop to the buyer but have not been paid. Okay. And so, continuation of this, payments for crop shipments that did not leave the farm by April 15th. For example, were harvested but sitting in crates on the farm, or mature crops that were unharvested by the date. For example, they were plowed under due to the lack of buyers and which have not been and will not be sold. When requested, producers must provide supporting documentation, which USDA's Agricultural Marketing Service will use to make sure that the claims are true, and that's by a case-by-case basis. Okay, so you can find the specialty crop tables. As you can see, there's a lot of them ranging from almonds to spinach, all the way down to watermelons. And so there are a lot of specialty crops that are on this list. As you can see, I just kind of went through those slides very quickly because that's a lot to go through. But I thought it would be interesting to pull out one of the specialty crops that are very large here in Idaho, which of course are potatoes. So the example payment potatoes. As you can see, the commodity is potatoes. And potatoes actually doesn't fall into one, it falls into 2 and 3 of those payments. And so there's a CARES Act payment for a product that left the farm but spoiled due to loss of marketing channel. And then there's a CCC payment rate as well. And so as you can see, if a producer shipped 1 million pounds of potatoes, but was not sold, so you shipped them, but you never received a payment for them between January 15th and April 15th, you are subject to a payment of $40,000. And so that's a full payment. And again, since you're only getting 80% of your payment right now, that'd be $32,000. And so just again, it would be 80% of that $40,000 because that's the amount of the payment that you will receive now versus if they have money to then give you that last 20% as up to the secretary. So then we get into livestock. And so the livestock that are included under livestock are hogs, cattle, and sheep. And as you can see, there's pigs, hogs, feeder cattle, less than 600 pounds, feeder cattle greater than 600 pounds, slaughter cattle, fed cattle, slaughter cattle, mature cattle, and all other cattle. And so not including dairy. Dairy is a separate entity in these programs. So then there's sheep, which are lambs, and yearlings less than 2 years of age. And so a single payment for livestock will be calculated using the sum of the producer's number of livestock sold between January 15th and April 15th, multiplied by the payment rates per head, and the highest inventory of number of livestock between April 16th and May 14th, 2020, multiplied by the payment rate per head. So producers must provide the following information to receive a payment. Total sales of eligible livestock by species and class between January 15th, 2020 to April 15th, 2020 of owned inventory as of January 15th, 2020, including any offspring from that inventory, and highest inventory of eligible livestock by species and class between April 16th, 2020 and May 14th, 2020. And so one thing that I really enjoyed that Kansas State put into the livestock budget when they were explaining this is that, so you can see livestock, eligible livestock, unit of measure, and then you see this CARES Act Part 1 payment rate and CCC Part 2 payment rate. Well, so this CARES Act Part 1 payment rate is that applied cattle sold between January 15th and April 15th, 2020. So this is the payment rate of cattle that you sold between January 15th and April 15th, okay? Then we have the CCC Part 2 payment rate. And so this is the unpriced highest cattle inventory between April 16th and May 14th, 2020. And so just so you know, cattle sold and then highest inventory number. And again, you can find that in the last slide. Again, producers must provide the following information. So then we have wool. So CFAP payments for wool are based on the inventory subject to a price risk held on January 15th, 2020. A single payment will be made based on 50% of a producer's 2019 total production, or the 2019 inventory as of January 15th, 2020. Whichever is smaller, multiplied by 50% and then multiplied by the commodities applicable payment rates. So producers must provide again the following: total 2019 production of wool, total 2019 production that was not sold as of January 15th, unpriced inventory or the production subject to price risk means any production, sales, and inventory that is not subject to an agreed upon price in the future through a forward contract, agreement, or similar binding document. Okay? And so then we have the wool payment table, as you can see. Again, this is all on the farmers.gov/CFAP, and it shows you the commodity program, the CARES Act payment rate, and the CCC payment rate. So dairy, milk from the first quarter production, January, February, March, will be multiplied by $4.71 per hundredweight for the CARES Act payment. This includes any dumped milk in January, in February, or in March. So that's $4.71 per hundredweight for the CARES Act payment. Anticipated production for the second quarter will be calculated as 1.014 times first quarter production and will be paid $1.47 per hundredweight for the CCC payment. Okay? So, CFAP eligibility. A producer refers to a person or a legal entity who shares in the risk of producing a crop or livestock and who is entitled to share in the crop or livestock available for marketing. Ineligible for payment if average of the adjusted gross income, AGI, for the 2016, 2017, and 2018 tax years is more than $900,000 unless at least 75% of that person or legal entity's average AGI is derived from farming, ranching, or forestry-related activities. You must comply with highly erodible land and wetland conservation regulations to be eligible for this program. So, payment limitations. Total CFAP payment may not exceed $250,000 for all commodities combined. The total amount of CFAP payments a direct payment corporation, limited liability corporation, or a limited partnership may receive is $500,000 if two different individual owners of the legal entity each provided at least 400 hours of active personal labor or active personal management or a combination thereof with respect to production of 2019 commodities. So, $750,000 if three different individual owners of the legal entity each provided at least 400 hours. So with all of this, again, how to apply? Well, you apply through your local FSA office. And I have left that location tracker for you again in the description box. So you go in, you click on Find My Local FSA Office, and it should bring you to your local FSA office, and you can apply through them. You can also get all of your forms and documentation through the farmers.gov/CFAP. It has an online payment calculator, which I will show you right now, and you can print out your needed forms and have them ready for FSA. You will have to go to FSA, okay? And so these are the forms that you can find on the farmers.gov/CFAP. Okay, so with that, I wanted to show you real quick the payment calculator and how easy it is. And I think it's very user-friendly. And so this payment calculator, you download off of that farmers.gov/CFAP. And as you can see, it has CFAP payment calculator, state, county, producer, address, city, state, zip. You don't necessarily have to put that all in to use the calculator, but it is very user-friendly. So you have part 1, dairy production information. So how many pounds of production in January, February, March? Non-specialty crop and wool, Again, you can use this drop-down menu. Look how nice that is. So malt barley. Say you did have that 2019 total production. Say you had 25,000 and you didn't sell 15,000. Well, see, it will calculate a payment using 80% of it. Again, you will only get the 80% right now. You might get the 20% at a later date if there's money still available. You have livestock, and usually if you go feeder cattle, less than 600 pounds per head, and then how many did you sell during that time, and then how many are you still holding on to between April 16th and May 14th. And that's your highest inventory number, okay? And then value loss, aquaculture and nursery, and then there's specialty crops. So in here, I've already put in potatoes. So say I shipped but not sold. I didn't get anything for them, but I still shipped them. And I'm subject to maybe 32,000. Again, that 40,000, but 80% of that, which is that 32,000. So I just kind of wanted to give you a general overview of what they're saying in this CARES Act, what all is happening and what you could be subject to for a payment. I hope this was useful. I really enjoy sharing this information with you all. So with that, if there's not any questions, I would love to see you guys next week. Maybe I'll expand into this more. I know we have a lot of livestock producers, so maybe I'll do a strictly livestock CFAP payment, what it would look like. And so with that, have a great afternoon. Visit your local FSA office. Again, find out which one to contact in the locator in the description box. Thank you all for being with me. See you next week.